What's up, everybody? I'm Dana Yanch at Elisity, and today I'm here in San Jose at the Elisity headquarters, and there's nobody in the office right now. So I thought I'd take this moment to bring you along with me as I do a little bit of work in my lab and show you what it's like to onboard your existing switching infrastructure as Elisity enforcement nodes. So follow me. I have a bunch of switches here, 3850s, 9Ks that are already connected and have all sorts of things connected to them, devices, IoT devices, IOMT devices, everything you can imagine is connected to this right now. And I also have some VMs in here, everything I need to test things for internal and external people, right? So let's go back over to the computer and talk to you about what we plan to do. All right, so before we get started, you need to know a little bit about the Elisity infrastructure and how it all works. So Elisity has a cloud-delivered control management and policy plane called Cloud Control Center. It's spun up in 15 minutes and you have access to it pretty quickly. And then we have the virtual edge in this scenario. Virtual edge is allowing us to onboard all sorts of switches as Elisity enforcement nodes. It's like a policy abstraction layer in this case. And also, we have the switches and all the devices that are connected to them. So it's pretty straightforward. Let's just log into the Elisity portal. We're going to select the policy fabric section. We're going to select Elisity Edge. You can see here I already have a virtual edge, the abstraction component that I talked to you about. It's spun up in 5 or 10 minutes. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a basic OVA VM. And all you have to do is now select this button right here and click Add Virtual Edge Node and put in the management IP of the switch that you want to onboard. So I know mine is 10.60.1.1, and I'm going to use the same IP for my ER span source, and just put the username and password of the switch here. All right, all done. I'm going to skip the location address. It's optional. Hit submit. Okay, it's as simple as that. What's happening right now is that Cloud Control Center and the virtual edge are reaching out to the switch and registering it, onboarding it, and pushing the appropriate configuration and policies so that the devices that are connected to it are immediately micro-segmented and least privilege access is enabled. It only takes a couple minutes for that switch to be onboarded, so let's see here. Yeah, it's already done. So you can see it's got a green status, meaning it's been registered correctly. You can see I have the host name of the switch, I have the uptime of it, I have the software version, I have the model information, and it's already prepared to receive Elisity policy. Now, let's talk about what we want to secure here. I have users and I have some devices. Specifically, what I want to protect are some of the IoT devices. I don't want these IoT devices to do anything other than what they're designed to do. So in this case, I have a Verkada camera, and it should only be reaching out to the Verkada Cloud portal. And it should not be able to reach any of the users or anything else on my network for that matter. So let's look at these policies together. We're going to click the policy section. You can see here that I get this policy grid. It makes it really easy to build policy. So let's go search for that IP cam. It's pretty straightforward. It should be down here somewhere. IP cams. There it is. IP cameras. I don't want these IP cameras to talk to anything else on the network. In this case, I'm just going to say I don't want it talking to any user on a network that's an AD user. Pretty straightforward. You can see here I have IP cams. Find the intersection between IT cams and AD users. You click that. You can see it automatically builds the policy for you. And you can see that assets that were already connected to the network have been matched and detected. I didn't have to go and identify anything myself. I didn't have to create profiles or anything like that. It's done for you. If I click the button, you can see here I have some cameras here that have been detected. Now, if I scroll down, I can see all sorts of users that are also detected on the network. And all I want to do here is change this to deny that camera from talking to anybody on the network. So I click the rule type layer 3, layer 4 protocol, and I'm going to do, let's just say all traffic, and the action is deny. And I hit deploy. Done. Immediately that policy is pushed down to the switch and it's enforced. Now, the cameras still need access to the portal on the internet. So let's go back to the IT camera section, IP camera section, and select Internet PG. That's our policy group that allows it to reach the internet. So let's click that. See IP cams to the internet. Same thing here. In this case, we're going to do layer 3, layer 4 protocol, and we're going to do all traffic. You can break it down. You can be even doing only HTTPS if that's what the camera uses. But in this case, just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to do all traffic and say allow. So it's saying that the IP cams via any protocol can reach the internet. Deploy, done. That's it. It's as simple as that. Least privilege access policy and identity-based microsegmentation is enabled within minutes.
Okay, so what you have just seen is a real-time demonstration of how simple and seamless it is to onboard your existing access infrastructure with Elisity to enable identity-based microsegmentation. Oh, that's a mouthful. No cuts, no tricks. That's exactly how it's done in the real world. However, you may not be aware of how microsegmentation was achieved in the past, or some of the approaches people are still trying to use today. So here's a quick refresher. Before Elisity was created, most network and security architects leveraged firewalls, NACs, and endpoint solutions to achieve a level of security for their users, devices, and applications. More recently, data plane fabric overlays have tried to find their foothold on the market, but it's been a pretty poor experience for customers. Now, it would take entirely too long to go into detail about why each of these traditional approaches have historically failed at effectively and efficiently securing the network at the access level, but I do want to call out a couple things here. Firewalls, for example, are not typically deployed at the access because it would be cost and operationally prohibitive. No one is going to deploy firewalls at every point in their network. Who's going to want to manage all that? They are typically used and work really well for perimeter-based security, meaning they are not even deployed in a strategic place in the network to provide microsegmentation to begin with. Firewall rules rarely take identity into consideration and require way too much effort to manage and scale. VLANs, VRFs, ACLs, and other switch or router level segmentation constructs are all manually configured and managed across your entire enterprise manually. Again, they have zero identity context and definitely do not scale. So it's up to engineers managing the network to keep all these things up to date. This is in 2005, right? What a waste of your engineers' time. If you've been in the networking field for a while, you will quickly point out that NACs have traditionally had very little success due to their complexity to deploy, manage, and scale. Most of the time, they cause more problems than they solve, and engineers end up disabling their enforcement across the network to fix a problem and never go back and enable it, leaving you with this Swiss cheese-like network with a bunch of random holes in it. Endpoint security simply just doesn't cover all bases of the network. They're hyper-focused on the user side of things, leaving devices and applications fully unsecured. Lastly, data plane-based fabric overlays, while a novel idea, I think they're pretty cool, are ridiculously difficult to deploy and manage and horribly disruptive to existing networks and take forever to realize any value on. Every customer I've spoken to either regret going down this path or refuse to even consider it based off of the poor reputation they've built for themselves, and many, if not all of them, are totally ripping it out. Sitting here, it honestly blows my mind why any vendor thinks it's okay to inject additional complexity into a network, a system that's already pretty complex. Not to mention that they have to manage this additional complexity on an ongoing basis. Let me dig a little deeper into this one because I think it's pretty interesting. Here's a real world example of what it's like to deploy and manage a NAC or fabric-based overlay compared to what it's like to deploy and manage Elisity Cognitive Trust. Pay attention to how long, in reality, not what you're told by marketing, it takes to accomplish each milestone in the deployment as I build out this slide. You can see here that just getting started takes months, only to end up getting a small piece of the value that you were sold. Something as basic as 802.1x authentication or guest wireless security. I mean, you go through all this hell just to get some basic security. Most people stop right here because of what they realize they're going to have to accomplish to reach the end goal. So let me show you that. Multiple major outages, redesigning and many times re-IPing the network, and the deployment of complex routing and switching functions and overlays. Now remember, even if you do make it to the end after, let's say, a year or two, you now have the task to manage and operate this insanely complex solution. Again, you should be thinking of using your highly paid engineers' time and resources a little more intelligently. Enter Elisity. We have solved for all of this, so check it out. Because Elisity is cloud delivered and we have injected a ton of automation and intelligence into the platform, it's deployed rapidly Complexity is basically eliminated, not just for the deployment, but also for the ongoing operation and management and maintenance of the solution. So you are saving loads of time and money here. Not to mention, you can enable Elisity solution across your entire network without a single packet drop. I'm not joking here. We're doing this day in, day out for our customers. You will achieve true enterprise class identity-based least privilege access in only weeks, if that. It's a no-brainer, right? Thanks for taking the time to listen to me today. I'm sure we'll be talking soon.